And welcome everyone to iCritic Live. This is the podcast where we talk about movies, pop culture, and life in between. I am Kevin T. Rodriguez, film critic of iCritic.net. Thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. And today we are talking about a bit of a hot topic that's happening in the entertainment industry. And in many ways, this is still breaking news. So if you've been following my channel, thank you for doing so. And if you have not seen, I made a video a couple days ago discussing this situation where Warner Brothers Discovery decided that they were going to scrap Coyote versus Acme as part of a tax write-off. Now, keep in mind, unlike Batgirl and Scoob, which were both technically unfinished, although Scoob eventually did get finished because the producers decided to finish it because everything had been paid for at that point. Well, Coyote versus Acme was completely finished. It was shot, it was filmed, it was animated, it was done. It was ready to go. In fact, we would have even seen it this year, but they decided to delay the movie in order to release Barbie this summer instead, and we all see that Barbie did very, very well. But then the shocking news came that it was decided that Coyote versus Acme, despite being finished, would be shelved, never to be seen, for a $30 million tax write-off. And this movie cost about $72 million to make. And I want to add that Space Jam: A New Legacy made over $163 million worldwide, and that movie wasn't even good. Of course, we have no idea if Coyote versus Acme are good, but, such is the curious minds. Well, that news obviously upset a lot of people. The film's director, Looney Tunes fans, just the internet at large. And it seems that there is a little bit of a reversal in decision. Now, this article comes from Puck. And I don't normally read from articles from Puck for one reason. They paywall everything, and I like to respect companies that choose to paywall their stuff. But I'm going to make an exception in this case. First of all, because I decided to subscribe to their website just for this article. And by the way, this is a great website. I read the articles once in a while on my brother's paid account. They write excellent articles. I do recommend you subscribe if you want some really good written articles about the entertainment business. But I'm going to read from this one, partially because it's not long, and also partially because there's some things in this article that is not being discussed as much as I would like to be discussed as the situation evolves and unravels. But we also want to look at some other articles because things have changed since this article has gone up. So let's go through this article. And the article is called Warner's Reverses Course in Coyote versus Acme Fight. The subheadline says, in a surprising about-face, Warner Brothers executives will allow the filmmakers of Coyote versus Acme, a $70 million live-action CGI hybrid Looney Tunes film, to shop the movie to other potential distributors. And from what we hear, screenings are being held for companies like Amazon, Apple, Netflix. Interesting that you don't see Paramount or Disney or MGM in there, although MGM is now owned by Amazon. I guess only streamers exist now? I don't know. So let's look at this article written by Matthew Baloney, who's a very good writer. I'm told Warner Brothers will now let the filmmakers of Coyote versus Acme shop the movie to other potential distributors. That's a big about face from earlier this week, when Warner's said that the long-finished $70 million Looney Tunes film, directed by Dave Green and starring John Cena, Will Forte, and a CGI Wile E. Coyote, would be shelved indefinitely without any ability to place it elsewhere, a la the infamous Batgirl and Scoob sequel. The Scoob was not a sequel. It was a TV special as far as I'm aware, but, whatever. Warner's declined to comment, but a good source tells me the decision was made this weekend by Warner film chiefs Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi, along with animation heads Bill Damaski, after the online outcry by filmmakers and the animation community, as well as some heated back and forth between the studio and the reps for the directors and stars. Let me turn the volume off of my phone. I'm sorry about that. Warner's had agreed to pay the top talent their streaming bonuses despite the film being scrapped, but obviously everyone involved in this project wants it to be released by someone. Now, here's something that you should definitely be taken into consideration. They're not talking about Twitter X users. While I'm sure protesting on Twitter is not something that hurts, you will notice that a lot of Twitter users complained about this movie not being released. They got it trending a few times, in fact, but that is not highlighted in the decision to basically let the filmmakers turn around and sell it. Now, there's a reason for that, and I want to share why a little later. Coyote versus ACME is another sign of these weird times, one of those caught in the middle of two strategies movies that was greenlit by Toby Emmerich back in December 2020, when the mandate from Warner Media leadership was to make as much product as possible for cost be damned. When current CEO David Zaslav took over, 70 million direct to Max movies went bye-bye, so Warner pivoted to theaters. But some internally questioned whether the film played theatrically enough. Contrary to Green's claim on social media that, and Green is the director of the movie, I want to add, that the film was, quote, embraced by test audiences who rewarded us with fantastic scores, unquote. It actually didn't test that well, I'm told. And Damaski, who is formulating his own strategy for Looney Tunes, feared the brand damage of an underperforming film, especially on the heels of Space Jam: A New Legacy grossing only $163 million worldwide. So they scrapped it. Another source who's seen the movie said it's definitely good enough to make a swing in theaters, but Warner's is understandably gun-shy these days, given its financial situation. Now, there is more of this article, but I want to pause for a minute because I want to highlight something. Damaski is formulating his own strategy for Looney Tunes. Now then, the reason that's important, we'll stop sharing that for a moment. I want to share this other article that was sneered when it came out, that a new live-action / animated hybrid Bugs Bunny movie was in the works, and he would be in his own solo movie. Now, of course, a lot of the memes started coming up that, hey, guess what? It'll get released unless they need it to be a tax write-off. Who knows? Then they'll scrap it. And look, I am totally in your corner. At this point, whenever Warner Brothers says that they're going to release a movie, I will believe it until I see it, because otherwise the movie might as well not exist. But if the Puck article is to believe, the Bugs Bunny movie might be the first of a Looney Tunes cinematic universe type thing. And maybe Coyote versus ACME doesn't fit into that plan. We actually know that David Zaslav, when he came in, he basically decided, you know what? The DCEU isn't working. Scrap it, reboot it, start from page one. When the Fantastic Beasts movies were not doing very well, you know what? Harry Potter is a great property. Scrap it. You reboot, start from page one. David Zaslav seems to do this a lot. He wants to reposition all these characters that they have into their own reboots, cinematic universe types things. So now, with that comment and this news about the Bugs Bunny movie, what better way to relaunch the Looney Tunes universe in movie form than to give Bugs Bunny his own movie? And what if they feel like Coyote vs. ACME isn't very good? Well, they'd probably want to scrap that movie. Now, does that mean I endorse that? Oh, heck no. I would not be making the movies and we would not be having this conversation if I did agree with it. But just to let you know, now it's starting to kind of come together. Let's go back to the Puck article real quick. So this is the end of the article, I believe. Yeah, this is the end. On that point, these whackings of finished films invariably get chalked up to tax savings. But there's actually not that much benefit to the company. I'm no tax avoidance, this is the writer speaking, expert, but everyone I've talked to on the subject has said that it's basically a question of when the losses on a film are taken. Maybe scrapping Coyote will accelerate a possible deduction, which is beneficial for a company like Warner Brothers Discovery that is drowning in debt now, but it's not a big benefit, maybe in the single-digit millions. In other words, not something Warner's would do if its executives believed in the film. But maybe some other studio or streamer will take the risk. So Warner's is going to help the filmmakers test the market. I'm not sure how many buyers there are for a $70 million live action CGI hybrid Looney Tunes movie, and Warner's, already fearful of brand damage, probably won't take a $50 million loss in a deal just to make John Cena happy, though the studio is in business with him on The Peacemaker and other stuff. But at least now Warner's is giving its creatives a chance. And if no buyers emerge, DeLuca, Abdi, and Demeski can at least say they let them try. So this is one of the things that you have to keep in mind. They are giving the filmmakers a chance to shop the film to other studios. And if these studios make them an offer that Warner Brothers is happy with, then they will sell the film. One of the problems right now is that because we know what they were going to get for their tax write-off and we know what the film cost, I wouldn't be too surprised if, say, Netflix came along and said, we'll give you $80 million, because that's $10 million more than you were going to get for just throwing the movie away. And I don't know if Warner Bros. Is going to do that. They're not going to sell this movie, in my opinion, to another studio at a loss. They just aren't going to do that. I think they won't sell this movie unless they get somewhere between $100 to $150 million, maybe realistically $125. But that said, even if they don't sell the movie to another studio, there might still be some hope, because this is really what caused the furor, not necessarily the Twitter activity, or the X activity, I should say. But in this Hollywood Reporter article, there is a very telling paragraph, which I actually highlighted this as a problem in my other video, but we will revisit it now with this new context. So in the middle of this article, in this little section right here, I'd highlighted it earlier, I guess it unhighlighted. After Batgirl and Scoob were dumped, a group of filmmakers with business at the studio started a text chain, a support group of sorts, to share their hopes and their anxieties, as well as encouragement and tips for navigating the studio. The one question all of them had: what was going on with their movies? The Coyote cancellation roiled the creative community perhaps even harder than Batgirl and Scoob, because those had been positioned as a one-off change in strategy, never to happen again. Also, I want to add, neither of these were finished. Now, again, Scoob was finished ultimately and then still shelved, but Batgirl still needed millions of dollars poured into it. So that's one of the big differences. According to sources, after the Coyote versus ACME news broke last week, several filmmakers instructed reps to cancel meetings they had on the books with Warner's. Now you can see what the issue is. But now that Coyote may ultimately find a new home, these filmmakers are taking a wait-and-see approach. Unlike the other films Warner's canceled, Coyote vs. ACME was fully completed and had tested multiple times in the 90s. Now, this article does seem to suggest that that means the tests were positive. The Puck article said it wasn't. We ultimately don't have the numbers, so choose to believe whoever you want. Best Picture winner Argo, both Deadpool movies, and the first The Conjuring are among features that likewise tested in the 90s. According to sources who have seen the film, which stars Will Forte, yada, 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 Coyote vs. ACME is a popcorn-style crowd pleaser. So here's what's ultimately being said. I mentioned this a little bit in the video that I had made. When Warner Brothers decided to do this, they were making a statement, however indirectly, that, hey, guess what? You make a movie for Warner Brothers, the movie will come out. Maybe, possibly, who knows, unless we feel like getting a tax write-off. Because here's the thing. I know some people say, like, well, as long as you get paid, what do you care for? It's like, well, I already explained in my other video. It's like working at a restaurant for a year, only to not be able to use your work experience to move up in the restaurant business. Likewise, people working on movies at Warner Brothers, they're putting their heart and soul, sometimes a couple of years of their lives, into a project. And aside from the fact that they do want to be seen, because why would you put that much time and effort into something that's never going to be seen? Not everyone is J.D. Salinger, who spent his whole life after writing Catcher in the Rye, writing novel after novel, never publishing because he just liked writing for himself. Most people don't work like that. They want their works to be seen. They want to be able to use that as a reference for their next job, to get a better paying job. And Warner Brothers sent a message that making movies with them was a real gamble. And so you start hearing these stories now, and Hollywood Reporter has confirmed it, that people who had meetings to work on Warner Brother projects basically said, no, cancel those meetings. We don't trust that company. And then you do have like Joe Russo here. He's one of the directors of Avengers Endgame and Cherry on Apple TV Plus. And he said, studio execs erasing movies for tax write-offs is grim when you think about movies they might have targeted in the past. Imagine never getting John Carpenter's The Thing, or Michael Dougherty's Trick or Treat, or Ridley Scott's Blade Runner, all lost like tears in the rain. He's not the only filmmaker who expressed some dissatisfaction. Dean Fleischer Camp, director of Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, wonderful movie, by the way, said, disgusting behavior, a scandalous perversion of WB's corporate social responsibility. Choice is rare in these monopolized times, but I can't imagine any filmmaker wanting to work with them now. May the brain drain be swift and absolutely devastating. And there were many filmmakers, writers, actors, directors who said the same thing. And the situation ultimately ended up being, this is not about Coyote versus ACME anymore. This is about the integrity of the business, the integrity of the studio. If we make a movie with the studio, will it never get seen? So here's the thing. The Puck article points out that, yes, Coyote versus ACME is being shopped, and it will be shopped and sold only if there's a buyer. I am cautiously optimistic that if there is no buyer, Warner Brothers will still ultimately release it, because at this point, they almost have to. To not release it would be far more damaging than anything else. And who knows, we might even have a buyer, because James Gunn, who you may recall heads the DC division and co-wrote and co-produced this movie, did share this one tweet, and the message is quite obvious. Something's cooking in the background. So I'm much more optimistic this morning than I was 2 days ago when I made my other video that we will see this movie get finished. Well, I say it's finished, but we will see it get released in some form or another. I hope it's in a theater. I would love to see in theaters. I like to see everything in theaters. I drive an hour from my house to see Netflix movies at the Netflix owned theater in Santa Monica that I go to all the time. So that's me. But at this point, considering how dire the situation was a couple days ago, you know, if it pops up on Netflix or Amazon Prime or Apple, so be it. I will watch it. I will just be glad that it's out there. I am hopeful that this is the last time that they're going to try to do this. And I'm hopeful that with that Puck article pointing out that they have plans for Looney Tunes characters, and that might explain why they were scrapping this movie and announcing a Bugs Bunny movie. Like, hey, we are getting ready to, you know, relaunch Looney Tunes, and we want to do a fresh start. It makes more sense now. But again, that's not a good way to do business. It really isn't, It is disrespectful for the artists. It is disrespectful, to the audience. Unlike the Snyder Cut, this wasn't incomplete. It was fully finished. And especially since there's a strike going on, well, the strike, I think, is almost over. I think they just have to ratify the contract now. But there's not a lot of movies coming out next year. So it's like, well, you might as well take something that's finished and put it out there, even if it's not great, because you might as well get something back. Now, Mike says the problem with WBD shelving the film isn't because of what the film it is. It's that this company's been getting ruined for a year and they can't seem to do anything right. Well, I do like Max, the service. I do think that's one of the best streaming services out there. And so as a result, they must be doing that right. And there's some great shows on Max. They also made that True Family Love or True Love show that's on Max. I love that show. But it does create distrust because who wants to be spending 2, 3, 5 years of their lives making a movie or series or something that ultimately just will not get seen? It is not what people who make art sign up for. So anyway, that is the update. There is still an asterisk in there. It is not a guarantee that we are going to see this movie, but I would say our chances are looking a lot better than they were a few days ago. In the meantime, would love to know what you think of the update situation. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one. Check out our podcast wherever podcasts are available.